Hello everyone, my name is Steve Koch and I'm the founder and CEO of ComFreight and HaulPay. HaulPay is ComFreight's factoring and payment automation solution. Basically what HaulPay does is enables smaller carriers and brokers to receive payment financing and automate their invoices. So today we're just going to basically go over a quick demo of the funding request process, and for the purposes of this demo I'm going to be acting as a small broker or 3PL. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we're logged into the ComFreight web app. And we're going to go over to our HaulPay section. So next we're going to go ahead and create a load. So ComFreight actually started as a load board originally, and the factoring and payment system is integrated right into the load board. So creating that load is just as simple as creating a load on any load board. You can put it in with a city and state. You can actually do it with a full address as well. And the nice part about this is all this data gets presented in a nice clean digital format to your carrier on the receiving end. Now you can put in a pickup window, delivery date. This data can also be synced from an API integration from your TMS. Once you're ready to go to the next step, just create the load. In this next view here, I'm going to be moving on to step 2 of actually creating the funding request, which is also going to create that digital payment that's queued up and a digital invoice. Now, if I want to come back to any of my loads that I've created in the future, I can come back to the post-load view and find this little green request payment button and complete the process at a later date. So if I haven't yet found a carrier for the load, or I'm waiting to find something either on our board or another board out there before I actually sign that carrier, I can always come back later. For the purpose of this demo, we're just going to proceed to the next step and complete creating our funding request. So the next field you're going to see here is the shipper invoice amount. So how much are you going to be invoicing the shipper as a 3PL? And how much do I want to pay that carrier? You saw the target rate in the last view. It's just preloading that over from the load. So if you want to change that at this point, you can make edits to that. And now I need to look up the shipper that I want to be invoicing for this. So there's my Pepsi Logistics, and quick search for the carrier. Great. At this point, you'll see the load number. That can be generated for you, or we can actually have a custom field that can use any load number or ID that you're using from any pre-existing TMS or ERP. Carrier pro number and PO number are referenced in all of the remittance data transmitted between both the shipper and the carrier and yourself. And payment method is also modifiable. So if the carrier wants to receive a wire transfer, they want to do RTP, or in this case, we're defaulting to our free same-day ACH. Now your payment speed is going to be the speed at which the carrier is going to get paid. So depending on how fast you want to pay the carrier, we assess a different financing fee. So in this case, we're doing a 1-day quick pay with a 3% discount. But let's say on this particular load, the carrier says, hey, you know what? You guys can pay me in 21 days or pay me in 15 days. I can just set that right here, and that'll update the transaction before I complete it. Now in this case, I'm going to leave it at the 1-day quick pay. I have one more cool feature here to show you before we get to the toggle, which is really interesting, which is, now, do I want to offer a free quick pay? So I could say, you know what? I'm going to give this carrier free quick pay, select that I'm going to take 100% of that fee on myself, and I'm done. I can also split it or set it back to the original default, which most brokers typically do, which is pass on the quick pay fee, right? So at this point, if I'd like to take an advance of my own margin, so it's totally optional, I just hit this toggle on the transaction, and when this transaction is approved, I will also receive my broker margin the same day. So for the purpose of this, we're just going to do a standard one without the advance, and we're going to go ahead and finish creating the funding request. So funding request is created. I can get there from the loads view here, or I can go back to HaulPay and find my funding request in the incomplete tab. Now at this point, next thing I want to do is just check the data on the funding request and do a final approval. And these approvals can be done in bulk too, so it makes it really efficient. So everything looks good. I've got my shipper invoice amount, my carrier invoice amount, the discount, payment speed, everything looks the way I want it to be. If I want to add additional breakdown on the invoice, I can use these fields here as well, so I can communicate everything on both sides of the transaction clearly. Now, next step I'm going to do is just upload whatever documents I want to go along with the invoice. So let's go ahead and get our POD uploaded. I can crop the image, or I can choose to just upload a file. And once the image is uploaded, I can select the document category. Now, this is a pretty cool feature. Depending on the document, you probably, you may or may not want it displayed to certain parties on the transaction, right? So if you have a carrier rate confirmation that you want to have visible to carriers that are interacting with our payment network, you probably want to make sure that's only visible to the carrier, right? So in this case, it's a POD. It's pretty innocuous, so we're just going to do both. So as that file uploads in the background, when it's ready, I can do a quick preview check of the invoice that is going to get generated and presented digitally to my shipper. And you can see it collated that document with the bill of lading right there. Now, if everything's good to go, I can move this to a final approval status, and I'm done. The invoicing happens from there, everything's automated. If I had an issue maybe with the document submitted by the carrier, I could also set this document issue status, would be communicated via email, text, and or through our app if the carrier is using that as well. But everything looks good here, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit approved and update the transaction. And that's it. You'll see these funding requests now in the approved status. They're batched up for payments. In this example, we use that free same-day ACH. Everything from here is touch-free. Once the carrier is actually paid, that moves over to this carrier paid status. And once the invoice is settled fully by the shipper, you'll see this transaction in the invoice paid status. So we have full reporting and documentation for numerous different activities related to accounts receivable, payments flow, AP, and we also have a full integration through API available. It's a nice RESTful API, which we can integrate with any system out there. We've got 4 TMSs in process right now. So if you guys want to learn more, we're at booth K15 right out here in the hallway. And thank you very much for your time, and have a great rest of your conference.